Good morning, good morning, good morning. How's everybody doing today? Good, good, good. Do I have any Stranger Things fans? That's my Vecna song right there. That's the one that's gonna bring me back. So that's one of those. I was talking to someone recently, and they asked me like, when you get in a creative funk, what do you do? And I got like 3 songs I play that just get me there, and that's one of them. So appreciate walking out to that today. But again, good morning, good morning, good morning. Just want to take a moment, just thank everybody for being here. It's truly an honor to be among fellow creatives and to tell some of my story that hopefully gives you a little hope at the end of this. So as Ashley said, thank you again for that amazing introduction. Try not to like tear up, but Ashley is one of those people, when we first connected, it was just like, and it's been on ever since. So we've done some amazing things in the city. I appreciate that opening. It was very nice. But I'll tell you again who I am. My name is Ron Stokes. I'm an artist. I work everywhere from murals to canvas work. I'm also a creator and founder of the art scene, where I say it as we create traditional and non-traditional art experiences. And when I say that, non-traditional, I mean those experiences outside of the gallery walls, those places where you might not always find art, but we've now created places for that. It was a really cool place to really dive in and find these spaces in the city where we could just invoke art into it. And my history as being a graffiti artist has led into that. So it's funny, I was rehearsing a speech with my daughter, and she said, "Dad, you're not supposed to say the name of your speech." But clearly, just as I sat in traffic on the bridge this morning, because there was a lot of accidents on there and I didn't listen to the GPS, I'm gonna say the name of my speech. So the name of my speech is I Am Hope, and it really just dives into who I am and what I am and how I came to be. It's not really a speech about success, it's a speech about becoming. It's about how I came and where I am now. For those that don't know me personally, I was actually born in Washington, D.C. And then, you know what? I'm gonna use a clicker because clearly I'm not paying attention. We had this whole coded thing where I was gonna say it and then she was gonna click it, and I've already forgotten. I told her I was gonna do that. But I was born in Washington, D.C., and at the age of 1, I moved out to California. And I grew up in California, but the East Coast wasn't down with me. So made my way back to the East Coast, down to 757, and eventually to Richmond, Virginia. But Richmond is where I found my people. It's where I found my place. It's funny, when I first got here, my wife and I, we were like, I don't know. We would spend every weekend going to like Hampton or DC or somewhere else. And then soon enough, it just started to stick. So again, like to my community, thank y'all for showing up. Thank you for supporting, and thank you for believing in me. I carry a lot of titles in my life. Husband, father, brother, friend, college graduate. When I went down to 757, I went to college down there and got a degree in accounting, of all things. Right? Something to fall back on. But you always get that question like, what's your real job? What do you do? Like, how do you make money? But like, look, went to school, did what I was supposed to do because I hoped it would turn into something, right? But it's funny, a question I get all the time is, how did you gonna do it for me? Because I'm not paying attention. I'm not. I was supposed to click to that one. I was supposed to click college graduate, my mom. It's a lot going on. I'm not, yeah. Work with me though, work with me. It's gonna get better, y'all. It's gonna get better, I promise. But it's funny. The question I get asked a lot, I think it's the number one question. When did you become an artist? And it's funny because if you ask my mom, she'll tell you he's been an artist his whole life. I remember, or she will tell you, as a little kid, I would get notebook paper and I would fold it up and I would staple it together. And I would fill those pages with characters and stories about those characters. And it would go on and on. I never forget, she would get like reams of paper for me. Remember those old school with the little dots on the side? And I would just fold it out page by page, just filling it up, filling it up. But if you ask me, my story started at 13. My story started at 13. One dark night, walking down the street, I wrote my name on a wall. I wrote my name on the wall and I was hooked, y'all. It was just, I remember riding by on the bus and seeing it and going, that's my name right there. And those characters and those stories in my pages, they turned into letters. They turned into bubble letters. They turned into pieces. They turned into just a different style of art. It was just something bigger than me, but there weren't no classes. There weren't no, click it. We're gonna get there. We're gonna get on this. But there was no classes. There was no internet. There was no blueprint for what I was doing. I had to study it off the walls. I had to study it off the streets. I had to figure it out for myself. I became a self-taught artist, and I remember those folded pages turned into black books. I would buy those black sketchbooks and I would fill them up with all these different sketches. My friends would sketch in them, and it would just become something bigger. My senior year is funny. At this point, I started at 13. I had skipped a grade, and I was 16. And I was getting ready to turn 17. I was taking my last class in high school, and my last art class in high school. And we had this watercolor project that I was just so excited about because I had never used watercolors. I was a marker and pen kind of artist. And it was a simple project, just paint a flower using watercolors. And I remember I brought it in that day, I turned it in, and you ever get so excited when you're turning in a project, like you just can't wait to get the feedback, hear what the teacher thinks. And so we would get that project back a couple of days later, and the teacher would always give you a write-up on your project, what you did right, what you did wrong, and your grade at the bottom. And I never forget, I got the project back, and immediately I just went straight to the grade. And it said D. Wait a minute, what? And I went up to read the review, and it just said how I did the project wrong, and it was so many bad things. And she told me I shouldn't be an artist. Right? Right? What he said, y'all, what he said. You want to say it louder for the people in the back? Really? But it was crazy because I was getting ready to graduate, and I had been accepted into the San Francisco school. I think it was Modern Design Art. They've changed the name since then, but I just got accepted. I was going there for graphic design. And at that moment, I decided, I was like, I ain't taking another class. It's the last class I take. And oddly enough, what you would think would damage me and hurt me as an artist propelled me. Because you got to remember, I was a graffiti artist. I was rebellious. I didn't listen to what society told me. And so I continued. But it would be the last class that I would ever take. I never forget. It was just one of those moments. I moved on. I went back to the streets, and I learned. We had a lot of slang in that world: racking, bombing, getting up. I didn't know that soon enough that would become my mantra as an artist. But as I continued to grow in that, my mentality would change. For those that don't know, getting up is it's survival, it's visibility, it's meaning is being seen everywhere. And that's the goal of artists, right? At 17, I also got the opportunity to be in my first exhibit. It was very cool. I was very young. Not long after that, I co-curated an exhibit with some friends, a bunch of us artists. I never forget, we had no money then. We called every paint store in the area and got them to donate roll paint, spray paint. We took donations to get plywood, and we were able to make an exhibit out of it. And again, I was hooked. I loved it. But But there was this thing that started to hurt me as an artist. You see, I would do these murals and I would put so much of my heart and my effort into them, but they would go up one day and they would go down another day. And it's like, it would hurt. So that same bus I would get on, you would see it, and you'd be like, oh, I did that. And then one random day you would ride by and it'd be gone. And it started to sting. And I began to ask myself, all right, how do I stay up longer? How do I keep this up, right? And I was sitting in my grandmother's living room. For those that don't know, Black people have 2 living rooms. We got the one we actually use and the one you're never allowed in. And in that living room of my grandmother's that I was never allowed in, I mean, this thing was beautiful. White carpets, white couch, white everything. It was just waiting for something to spill in it. It was one of those rooms you took your shoes off to go in. You were mad nervous when you got in there because I don't want to be the one. You didn't want to be that grandkid that messed something up in there. And I remember she was always my biggest supporter. And I remember sitting in her living room one day and looking at the art on her walls. That art had been up there for longer than I had been in existence. And the light bulb went off. This is where I need to get up. This is where my art needs to be. Because what is 2 months when I could be here for 20 years? And so as the light bulb went off, I had to have a little wrestle with myself because again, oh yeah, we way past this one. That's a good point. That's a good point. Let's stop right there. You're right. I'm gonna just blink at you. There we go. All right. So it's not me erratically blinking. It's me giving her the signal, y'all. But I started to think about it because I realized my grandmother probably didn't want her name in bubble letters on her living room wall. So how do I adapt to the moment? That's when I began to study again. Remember, I'm a self-taught artist. So I started to play with abstraction. I started to play with moving away from the letters and telling you how I felt without any letters. Again, like I was preparing myself. I was teaching myself the whole time. I went back to my childhood. As a child, I grew up in church, and Catholic church, where all the windows would be stained glass. And there were just amazing stories, but these stories were in this cubism kind of form. And so I started to blend some of that in. And so I mixed it up in a big gumbo pot. For y'all that don't know, my mother's from Louisiana. Gumbo's a big thing there. I mixed all of the style up in a gumbo pot, but I didn't know if it would connect. But I hoped it would. And so as I began to paint more and more and develop my style and create this new way of communicating, my house became my first gallery. It was easy for me to hang my art in my walls because I didn't have to share it. I wasn't ready to share it with the world. But I got to this point where there was no empty space on my walls. And my wife, who's sitting on the front row, gave me this conversation one night. She said, look, you're gonna have to do something with this art because there's no more room in here. And, it's funny. So I had all this stuff brewing in me, and Richmond being the city that it was, one random night we were going out on a date night, and this artist that I had kept seeing, I couldn't get away from it. Okay. You can probably go back one. Yeah. We're not even ready for this one. But no, this artist that I began to see, I started seeing him everywhere. As an artist, especially as a graffiti, you notice what's on the walls. And so I kept seeing his murals, I kept seeing his work. And then one night on a date night, we're walking down the street and I see him painting. And most of y'all know him as Ham Glass. And I started talking to him. We struck up a conversation. And I never forget, I was like, man, I've been living through your art for a while. Like, I've been living through you. And I never forget, in typical him fashion, he said, what are you doing that for? Like, you got to get out there. And I think it was a month later, he called me up and he invited me to be a part of a mural project he was doing. It's moments like that, you know, that just kept happening. What's funny is that mural is oddly enough still up to this day behind a hidden wall in Scott's Addition, which feels very on brand for my journey. And then not long after, two good friends of mine, Amiri and Cindy Richardson Keys, who have a community center called The Arts. If you're not familiar with it, you definitely should. They share a lot of art with a lot of young kids and really invoke that spirit in them. But they invited me to use their space. They said, Ron, I got a space. You're welcome to do a solo exhibit here. And they offered me that space. I did my first exhibit there, and the title was simple. It embodied my entire journey up to that point. The name of that exhibit was Alleyways to Living Rooms, because that's where I was going, right? But I had to learn more in that journey. I had to continue to teach myself. I was doing the exhibits, I was doing the murals, but there was still something missing. I had to teach myself the art business. I had to teach myself about prints. I had to teach myself about reproduction. I had to teach myself about sustainability as an artist. But as I learned these things, as I dove in head first, suddenly my art was everywhere. Uh-oh, now it don't work. It don't click. We'll get there. I was traveling up and down the East Coast. I was live painting. This is one of my memorable moments. I was live painting everywhere. I was doing exhibits. I was doing murals. I was doing art fairs. My artwork was finding its way everywhere, from homes to businesses to museums to hotels. And you're gonna kill me because we put this slide way later in the pictures, but and beer cans. I was doing it everywhere, right? And it was just, it's what every artist dreamed of. You're finally getting out in the world. People are accepting your artwork. But when I was coming home, something was missing. I was getting all these great opportunities, but Richmond was just, there was nowhere for us. As a Black artist, I got back here, and at the time, there were no Black galleries. All of them had closed. There was no space for us. And so I came back, and as always, I'm always creatively thinking. I'm thinking of what we can do next. How can we do it, right? How can we do what they're doing in other cities? So I never forget a good friend of mine who once used to tell you where to be, started creating spaces where you should be. The name of that business is Unlocking RVA, and her name is Faith Wilkerson. Creative Morning family. And I called her up one day. It was 5 years ago, beginning of the year. I called her up. I said, Faith, I keep going everywhere, and like I'm doing these art walks, and I'm doing these opportunities where artists just pull up and they showcase their work, and they can sell their work, and they can meet people. Why doesn't Richmond have that? Why aren't we doing that here? And told her, I said, right now, there's nowhere for us to show. There's nowhere for us to be. And, you know, in typical Faith fashion, she said, Ron, that idea is cute. We're gonna have to build that out in like 9 months. I was like, all right, cool. Get a name, get a concept, build it out, come back to me. And I left the conversation. We didn't even talk about it again. But again, in typical Faith fashion, she called me, let's say it was about May 18th. And she said, Ron, you know that idea you had? I said, the one about the art walk? She said, yeah. She said, you think you could pull it off in 30 days? I said, what happened to 9 months? I don't even have a name yet. She said, look, I've got space for you. I said, where's the space? She said, Rocket Landing. Huh, what is it? She said, it's the very first Juneteenth celebration in the city of Richmond. said, oh, we're only expecting 3,000 or 4,000 people. What? All right, I'm gonna try. And so the art walk was born. That day we had a dozen Black artists showcasing their work right underneath the terminal building. And that day alone, they interacted, they engaged, and they had over $10,000 in sales. And it told me that day that Richmond needed us. It was missing us. We had to do something. Not long after that, a friend of mine opened a restaurant. It was a cigar lounge in the back. It was a supper club in the front. He asked me to paint a mural in there, and just casually talking in between letting coats of paint dry, we're staring up at the walls. I mean, he just had beautiful walls. And he said, Ron, why don't you put some artwork in here? I said, I can, but why don't we do something even better? Why don't we create an artist showcase where we're rotating artists every month, showcasing all their work? I'll kick it off, but let's keep the energy going. And so we did that. Still had no name, but we were curating and we were creating space. It wasn't until next year that I finally put a name to it. And that name was the art scene. It's spelled very incorrectly, but it's very on brand for me. It's spelled S-E-E-N because for me, what was once unseen is now seen. In the last 5 years, the art scene has been around, named and unnamed. I'm sorry, I guess I should have paused for that and let you. But in that past time, over the last 5 years, the art scene has created over 50 opportunities for artists to show their work. We have partnered with some amazing folks over the years and done some really cool things. And one of our greatest accomplishments was last year. Again, constantly seeing what are we doing, what's missing from this city. Last year, we did our very first African-American Fine Art Print Fair. It was at Hardywood. It had over 20 artists, and they did amazing that day. It was actually one of Hardywood's biggest sales in terms of people showing up to their place and supporting Hardywood, but also for the artists, it was one of the biggest days for them. And there it is. It was just a beautiful day. I got a couple more minutes, so I'm gonna be quick. I feel like a preacher at the church. One more thing, and I'm gonna let y'all out. But there's two things I wanna leave you with tonight, or today. One, community is everything. I found mine. As a creative, find yours. It gives you space to grow. It gives you space to learn. It gives you space to believe. Because the second thing is hope isn't passive. Hope builds, hope creates, hope makes room. Did you know in the city of Richmond, there are over 50 galleries? Over 50 galleries in the city of Richmond. And as of today, only 3 are Black owned. It's a very sad thing to me because there are some amazing artists in this city, and you can't even find their artwork on a wall right now. The very first artist that gave me my start, Mr. Ham Glass. If you want a piece of art from Ham Glass, you got to go meet him somewhere. I think that's very unfortunate. You should be able to see his work at all time, not just on the walls outside. And let me shout out those galleries: Southside Contemporary, Chromophore Art Space, and High Res Gallery. All right. There are some great organizations doing work too, much like the art scene. You got Mending Walls, which is great family to Creative Mornings. You've got Liberated Flow, and you've also got Black Creatives. Shannon's in the back, more family. You know, my story started out as a kid who just didn't know what he was going to do with his life. He was a boy that was told not to be an artist. Thankfully, he didn't listen. In my case, I proved others wrong. I learned. You know, hope is a thing of dreams. And as the artist I am today, I am the dream. So, I am hope, y'all. Thank y'all. Thank you.
We're going to take questions. That's very busy. Where can we find you right now?
You can currently find me. I actually opened an exhibit last night called Black and Blue. It is currently at Chromophore Art Space. Miss Aya is in the audience. That will be up for the next month. We will actually be doing an artist talk a week from today, January 23rd.
January 23rd.
6 o'clock. And thank you for keeping me on track today.
Where can we find you on social media?
You can find me at social media at viewsbystokes.com. So everybody take out your phones, follow me at viewsbystokes.com. It's VIEWSBYSTOKES. And then also, I'll let y'all know that's a little long, but then also make sure you're following the art scene. We post about all our exhibits, all our different art-related events, to include the African American Fine Art Print Fair, which will be back at Hardywood March 29th. So it's THEARTSEEN_.
I have a question.
Sure.
Can you tell us about these beautiful pieces behind you and what you see when you see these pieces?
Yeah, so every piece of painting that I do is always inspired by life. It's inspired by interaction. It's inspired by a story. I think of my art as a storyteller. One thing, as I merged abstracts and cubism and that street art together, I love it in that other people can find themselves in my work as well. So these are two vastly, I have a funny side to me and I have a serious side. So the funny and fun side, which is this piece inspired by Pharrell and his fashion sense, not his music sense, was actually created for RVA Fashion Week. And then the piece to my right was actually inspired by my mother and my wife and women that just pour into their children. So it's titled A Mother's Love. So, yeah.
We'll be sharing all your handles on our social. Thank you, Ruth, for over there. So,
I see.
one more question. Go ahead.
Ariel from Northville. I'm sure you're familiar with my father, Mr. James Surgeons, Thornhill.
Oh, yeah.
My question for you would be, as a father of someone of a child, I don't know how many kids you have.
2.
My question would be 2.
2 girls.
2 girls, even better. My dad does have 2 girls.
Okay.
So, when they come to you and they say, Dad, I want to be a creative, I want to do what you do, what are you going to tell them?
Ooh, that's good. Are they still on my bill? No, so you know what? In addition to all the things I do, I also teach financial literacy from time to time. And that has formed a lot into my kids. I never forget my oldest, who is graduating George Mason this May. I never forget, she was an artist and she did plays. She went to Thomas Dale for School of Art. Okay, shout out to Mason. But I never forget, like, she came to me one day and was like, Dad, I'm going to school for forensic science. I said, what that got to do with singing and acting? But she told me, I may always do that, but this is something that, again, can pay the bills. Just like her dad that went and got the accounting degree, just in case. So I'm gonna support my kids through anything. I want them to be the best versions of themselves, but hopefully it's an affordable dream of theirs.
This is how connection happens at CreativeMornings. I went to George Mason.
Right?
I think your daughter wants to say.
Oh.
Just in response to that question, the most supportive person I have ever known in my life. And that's my best friend. I can't.
Life of a girl dad is filled with emotions. A lot of emotions.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for being the hope. I know you all grasp every word that he said, and you are the dream, you are the hope, and all of us are. Today, as we end, can we give him one more applause?